What we'll be doing this evening, we will have two folks from the HCAN Speaks organization give a little bit of a briefing. So first, Kathleen Allgaier is going to discuss some of the child care bills that are coming up. And then Nicole Wu is going to share about the earned income tax credit. And then at the end, Ryan Catalani will be sharing how you can get involved, how you can get more information, kind of what you can do as a parent and community advocate. Awesome. Nice to see. We got folks from all over the state, which is awesome. Nice to see you all. And I should have said I live in the back of the beautiful Manoa Valley. And so I will turn it over first to Kathleen Allgaier, who is our Director of Health and Early Learning Policy.
Great. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us tonight. I am really excited to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which is early care and learning in Hawaii. I'm just going to do kind of like a quick informal poll, which is how many folks have used childcare in Hawaii? How many of you have been a consumer of childcare? You can give me a thumbs up or, like a heart emoji or, put it into the chat. Great. I also have been a consumer. I've had kids in childcare. So I know what happens, I know how these headlines kind of relate back to real life. I know that, like when we don't have enough, when childcare is too expensive. I know that these words translate into stress, into worries, into anxiety and fear of what happens if I don't have childcare for my kid. And on the flip side, I know what happens. I know the feelings that happen when you do have a place for your child, the relief and the joy, and then the happiness when I take my child someplace. I know they're going to be cared for. I know they're going to spend the day learning and playing with their friends. And at the end of the day, they'll greet me with a smile, and hopefully they won't put up too much of a fight when I tell them that it's time to go home. And so for me, these issues, we work on them as an organization, but they're also just deeply personal because I've lived through it. You'll hear me say child care, early care and learning, early childhood educator. For the purpose of this discussion, all of those words mean the same thing. Learning and education absolutely happens, even in our youngest kids. I just put up two images. One is on, like when brain development happens. Majority of the brain development occurs between the ages of 0 to 3, but really those first years are so important. And so every interaction for an infant is a learning experience, is a learning opportunity. It looks a little bit different, right? They're not at like a tiny desk with a tiny pencil, but it's still absolutely learning. And then later on, I'll be talking about, like public investment and, like we need to support it like it's a community good. And the reason for that is because that's what the research shows us. It shows that like as a society, when we invest in early childhood, we see the greatest return on investment. But currently the way that we do it is flat, we do it a little lopsided. We actually spend the most money, towards the later end of a child's educational career. We don't really invest a lot in early childhood. No matter the age of the child, whether it is a high school, middle school, elementary, or our infants and toddlers, they should be supported. And so we should be making the investments into these systems the same way we do our K through 12 education. I could get into the weeds on childcare, but I'm not, because I can actually explain it in 3 graphs. It's pretty simple concepts. So the first is that we don't have enough space, right? That's what we talked about. That's what we saw earlier. We just don't have enough. We have more kids needing care than we actually have capacity. This only goes back 3 years. I promise you, if you look back from the entirety that we've been keeping track of this, we have never had enough. And so we know that translates to, again, like fear, worry, anxiety, and it puts families into positions where they have to make really difficult decisions. Part of the reason that we don't have the capacity has to do with the fact that we don't have the workforce to actually support the number of children needing care. Child care, early care and learning, it's really labor intensive, not just in the like physical labor, but the number of people that it takes to participate to work in a program. We have staff to child ratios that we want to maintain, we want to keep high. That's for health and safety standards, it's for quality, it's for different accreditation programs. We want to make sure that we are keeping our program, that are keeping our kids safe. But we're actually seeing our workforce get smaller. We're seeing more people leave, and that translates to fewer children being able to be served, and fewer families having access to the care and early learning spaces that they need. When I talk to childcare providers about why we might be seeing this, the number one issue that comes up is wages. On this chart, that top green line, it's what our state says you need to be self-sufficient. What do you need to survive in Hawaii if you are a single adult with a preschooler? That yellow line is for our preschool teachers. These are not our public pre-K or our charter school or DOE pre-K teachers. These are if you're a lead teacher in a preschool classroom in a child care center. And that blue line represents kind of different other folks that are working in the program, whether it be an assistant teacher or a childcare aide. But no matter what, preschool teacher, childcare worker, it's not enough. We just are not able, we're not able to see wages that actually support people staying in the profession, pursuing the education, and remaining, even if they have the dedication, the passion, and the love for it, which is absolutely a requirement if you're going to work in this space. When we've studied how to grow our programs, compensation is the number one cited reason why people are leaving, and what we should do to support folks. And so we also know that the cost is just too high for families. The way that we have kind of created the system of childcare and early learning, it's basically the families that are supporting the programs themselves. And again, because childcare is so labor intensive, there's just no way that families are ever going to be able to pay what they would need to pay to support the program the way that it's required. Childcare is already a high cost for families. For some families, it's the second highest cost in their budget. And so the idea that we would expect them to take on more, it just means that fewer families are going to be able to participate. Fewer kids are going to be able to go to these programs. And we're getting to a place where we can start to see what it looks like when a community doesn't have childcare. With the recent closures, especially our elementary school closures, we see what happens to a community when these spaces aren't available. You can call hotlines now and scream into the phone if you are an enraged parent. And I think that is a great cathartic experience, but that is not a long-term solution. We need to be making investments into our early care and learning system now, so that we not only like stop the system from deteriorating, but we actually start to build it in a way that's supportive of children, families, and the people that are working in it. So there are 3 pieces of legislation that I've been working on with people far smarter than I am this year that we're hoping helps to move this conversation forward. So the first bill focuses on retention and recruitment of early childhood educators. This bill has 2 pieces. One is a compensation pilot program for childcare workers. This has been done in a number of other states. It's been really successful, and it just goes to the fact that childcare, people working in childcare deserve to earn higher wages, but again, it shouldn't be incumbent on the families to provide them. And so this is a state investment into compensation that hopefully will keep people in the workforce. And the second piece is putting funding into our early childhood educator stipend program. This is for folks who are pursuing a 4-year degree in early childhood at UH. And we want to make sure that our locally trained and educated folks are able to stay and work here. And so this stipend program helps to pay for educational materials and costs. The second bill is on improving workforce data. Everything that I've showed you right now about Hawaii's workforce is absolutely true, but it isn't nuanced. It's national data. It doesn't necessarily represent exactly what's happening on the ground. We would love to know how many people actually are working in early care and learning. We have no idea right now. And so we're not able to plan and make the investments that we need to for the future. This is not exciting in the sense that it, it's not a sexy topic, data, but it's absolutely necessary so that we can make strategic investments in early childhood workforce so that we're able to grow our programs in a way that meets everybody's needs. And then lastly, it's going to take ongoing sustainable funding. We need to make sure that this isn't a one-off or a one-time investment. And so we're asking that there actually be a dedicated revenue stream going towards early childhood programs. And in addition to that, we want to make sure that folks, again, entering early childhood or thinking about it, have as many on-ramps as possible. And so supporting an apprenticeship grant program for early childhood is one of the ways that we can make sure that people, your non-traditional student or your person that just learns better on the job, have the ability to also train and work in early childhood. And last year, there was an unfortunate cut to one of our childcare subsidy programs, Preschool Open Doors. We're only serving half as many children this year as we did previously, and we want to see that funding restored. We know that providers relied on that. We know that families relied on that. And so we want to make sure that we're able to continue serving everyone that has needs. And rather than wonder, like, what is a community without childcare? We want to get to a place where nobody has to wonder, what if I don't have childcare? It's there, it's available, and it meets the needs of the child, the family, and the community that it's in. And I know that I just said a lot in a really quick way. And so if you have questions now, happy to take them. If you want to digest, and after Nicole's presentation, we can do so also. You can also put them in the chat and I'm happy to respond there as well.
Thank you, Kathleen. And so let's just pause for a second. Are there any questions? Or if you're shy, you can write it down.
Hi, I had a question around, is there any data with parents getting access to actual childcare monies? Just as someone that works with families, that's something we hear often, that they may qualify, but the process to get the monies processed and given takes months and months and months. So that's months without childcare access. So is there any data around that, or any bills that are being proposed to possibly focus on that?
It's funny that you say that. We're actually working on that as well. There isn't legislation at the moment to do that, because we're trying to figure out, like, where exactly are those leverage points, like where is this load on happening. But absolutely hearing about, like, for some families it's taking 8 months for the subsidy application to process, and you can't wait that long. And so we are working to try and make the system smoother, to make sure that families, it's supposed to be a 30-day process. Even that is too long, honestly, if you have to wait, if you have to wait until you have a job. And so we are working on that on the side. I would love, actually, if you want to follow up after this, because we know that this is a struggle for families. And we also know that there just isn't enough money available to support everyone that actually has needs. So we're working on it. It's not within this legislative package, but definitely something that we're aware of, and we're hoping to make improvements in the near future.
Thank you so much. And I'd love to meet or talk after if you would like. Yeah, you can meet me at HFAA or Hawaii Families as Allies. Some of you on here know me, I think, already. I see some familiar faces.
Great question. It's a huge problem. Other questions? Anything about childcare pre-K? And we can circle back at the end too. Okay, I don't see any other hands. So next, thank you again, Kathleen. That was a great kind of big picture overview of all the childcare pieces. Our next presenter is going to be Nicole Wu, who is our Director of Research and Economic Policy, about what's called the Earned Income Tax Credit.
Hi there, everyone. I'm not sure who's sharing. Oh, am I sharing? Oh, okay. Sorry. Can somebody share the slides? I don't know who was doing it before.
Yeah, I'll open it up.
Thanks, Ryan. Because I can't. It's not letting me. So I'll just start. We're great. So the other legislative priority of HCAN Speaks is a way to get more money back into the pockets of working class and lower income families here in Hawaii. And the tax credit we're talking about is the earned income tax credit. It's time to improve it. And there are two main ways to improve it. One, make it permanent, and two, make it refundable. And I'm going to explain to you what that means in the coming slides. Thanks, Ryan. So first, what is the Earned Income Tax Credit? It actually was started by the federal government decades ago. More than 30 states have it now. We passed it here in Hawaii in 2017. And it's an income tax credit that helps working families with children who earn low to moderate incomes keep more of their hard-earned money because it's a tax credit. So they get to keep more of what they pay, what they're paying out in tax. It comes back to them at tax time. And there's a lot of research into the federal EITC because it's been around for so long. It's been linked to better birth outcomes, less hunger, better health. Children who are in families that get the EITC are more likely to finish high school and enroll in college, and even earn more as an adult. And they've also found that for every dollar in EITC that goes back into a family's wallet, it generates $1.24 in the local economy because we know that these working parents are going to just spend the extra money at our local businesses. So this tax credit literally pays for itself and supports local businesses. Now, unfortunately, there is a problem with our tax system that I call upside down. And the Earned Income Tax Credit is one way to fix this system. Upside down meaning that lower income people are paying more than higher income people in taxes. So the EITC pushes back against that because you have to have a lower to moderate income and it sort of phases out as you make more money. So it really helps those at the bottom end of the income scale get their money back. But when our legislature passed it in 2017, they only had it go for 5 years. So it's going to sunset at the end of 2022 if the legislature doesn't do something. Next. So this is a chart showing how our tax system is upside down. If you look at the left column, the very left column, that's folks in the lowest 20% of our income scale, families that make less than $20,000 a year. They're paying 15% of their family income in state and local taxes. A lot of that is the GET that they have to pay on everything that they buy, and lower income families spend pretty much everything that they make. So, you add GET along with income taxes and some other taxes, and they're paying 15% of their income. You go to the right side, and the right column is the top 1%. And then the next column on the right is the next 4%. So, and then the next 15% there too. So the last three columns are the top 20% on the income scale. They pay only 9% of their income in state and local taxes. So that's what I mean when I say that our tax system is upside down. And what the EITC does is that it takes those two columns at the left and it lowers them a little bit because it gets some tax money back to families at the lower end of the income scale. So it starts to make this chart less of a slope and a little bit more even, a little bit less upside down. Next. And I mentioned that we need to make the EITC refundable. That is not something that anybody who's not a policy wonk like me understands. So I'll explain it. What is refundability when we talk about tax credits? Well, if a family qualifies for a tax credit that's larger than what they actually owe in income taxes, then they get that extra amount back as a tax refund. So in other words, that ensures that the lowest income families here in Hawaii are able to get their full tax credit. And I'll show you an example now. So let's say we have a single mom with one child here in Hawaii who's a minimum wage worker. She's working full-time. That would mean she's making $21,000 a year. And don't get me started on how our minimum wage is too low. But for our example, $21,000 a year, a single mom with one child, she will owe state income tax for this year of $424. She qualifies for a state earned income tax credit of $663. Now, if you look at the box on the right side, right now we have a non-refundable EITC. So she can claim only $424 of her EITC because she cannot get a tax refund the way our EITC is designed right now. If we made our EITC refundable, she could claim the full amount that she qualifies for, which means that she gets a tax refund of $239. And one thing about this tax credit is that the more children you have, the bigger your credit is. And as I said, when your income goes up, it starts to phase out. So again, this tax credit is targeted at families with children who have low to moderate income. Next. Another really important feature of the EITC is that it pushes back on some of the racial income disparities that we see in our state. So the set of rainbow bars on the left are the average amount of EITC that people get back with our current non-refundable EITC. If you look on the right set of columns, that's what they would get if we had a refundable EITC. The gray columns are the state average. And so if you just look on the left, you can see that the green column and the blue column, Pacific Islanders and Native Hawaiians, is higher than the gray bar. So already the EITC is helping push back on some of these income disparities by providing a bigger boost to some of the folks in our community who don't make as much money and have been historically discriminated against in our economy. If you look to the right set of bars, you can see that Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, the blue and green columns, are even more boosted. They're even higher, even more, they're even more above the state average of the gray column. So this is, it's not going to fix everything, but the EITC is one way that we can help push back a little bit on these disparities that we see in our state. Next. And another argument for us to make the EITC refundable is that 31 states, I count DC as a state, 31 states have EITCs, but Hawaii is one of only 5 states where it's not refundable. So you can see in this map, states with refundable EITCs are in blue, and Hawaii hangs out with Missouri, Ohio, Virginia, and South Carolina for non-refundable. And I really think we should join the blue crowd and make our EITC refundable. And I hope you agree. Last slide. So just to repeat, it's time to improve Hawaii's earned income tax credit. We need to make it permanent. We need to make it refundable. And you can see the link at the bottom, which I'm sure we can put into the chat. There's a page with our legislative priorities, both what Kathleen talked to you about earlier and what I just talked to you about, with a lot of the same details and charts and all that. So if you want to review, you know where to go. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicole. Okay, before we get into what you can do, any questions about how many of us could get bigger tax refunds? I know I could use a bigger tax refund. Any questions?
I do. I have a weird one. With about 11% of the population being military, I was wondering, how does that work for families who claim their state taxes in another state?
Yeah, I'm not a tax expert, but I assume you have to pay taxes in whatever state you're claiming residency in. So you'd have to look to that map and see if you have EITCs in your state. That's a good question.
It's a very helpful map.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't make it. Center on Budget and Policy Priorities did.
Good question. Other questions about tax refunds? Or about childcare? We can also go back to childcare, or comments. It's a quiet group. Okay, then to wrap us up, or not really wrap us up, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Catalani, who's our Director of Advancement, and he's going to share some ways that you can get involved, you can help make these things a reality. At the core of HCAN, we believe that to make good policy, to have good laws and policies that work for children and families, we have to really hear from families and parents, and that is truly the way that will have these changes happen. Kathleen and Nicole are amazing advocates, but we really and truly do need the voices of families in there sharing why this is important, how these policies would make why it's a problem right now without childcare, how your life would be improved if you had a larger tax refund, things like that we lawmakers do listen to communities. So I will turn it over to Ryan.
Thanks. And thanks to Kathleen and Nicole for some great overviews. And again, we'll share these out and you can see them on the website and get basically all that same information that they shared. The first thing that I wanted to share, and there are a couple quick ways. I know we're getting to 5:30 and starting to get to dinner time, but I did want to highlight a couple of quick ways, things you can do right now as we get into the legislative session. The first thing, as Deb said, is that it's so important that the legislators hear directly from you. And there's a lot that we can do to help you get ready to share your voice with the legislature. But the first thing that you need to do as an individual advocate is definitely sign up for an account on the Capitol website, on the legislature's website, if you haven't yet. And it's pretty simple. The URL is just capitol.hawaii.gov. We'll send this out afterward also. And there's just a button at the top that says register. This is, you just need your name, email address, and a password, and then you'll be set. But why this is important is because if you sign up for our email alerts, which we'll get to in a second, we're going to be asking you to submit testimony to the legislature. And it'll just be that much easier if you already have an account and don't have to do it right at that minute. So going to email updates, we have what we call action alerts, which allow you to be informed about these bills that are progressing through the legislature. And in particular, we'll let you know if there are any major developments. For example, if the bills have a hearing, and at that point, you can submit testimony. And like Deb said, your testimony doesn't need to be you don't need to be a policy expert to submit testimony. What would be really powerful to hear from you all on this call are your personal stories of how these policies would affect you or people like you. What does it mean to have childcare struggles in your lives? What would it mean to have a bigger tax refund each year? Those are the kind of things that the legislators need to hear directly from our families about. And so when you sign up for our email list, you'll be able to get these, again, what we call action alerts, which let you know when you have opportunities to submit those stories to legislators. And we'll walk you through the process. We'll provide all the links, tell you where to click, what bill number to put in, and we'll try and make it as easy as possible. But the first thing is that we definitely need your support in getting these action alerts and, sending them out to your friends, your family members, other people that you may think are affected by these issues too. Definitely the more voices, the better. When it comes to submitting testimony, we have a couple resources that can help with that as well. At its most basic, it doesn't have to be very complicated. But if you want to look through the process, we have an online resource that we call our Advocacy Toolkit that gives you a lot of detail about how the legislative process works and how to submit testimony that goes beyond just your personal story, which is okay too. But we have in particular a page with a video that you can look through. It's 5 or 6 minutes long. That'll walk through exactly all of the points on how to sign up for an account on the Capitol website, and then what it looks like to submit testimony, what all the screens look like. So this can be a really great resource to share for people who, have never done it before. And we do include these on our action alerts too. So don't worry about copying down the exact URL right now. Basically, you'll see each of these screenshots will just walk you step by step through all the process. So we'll try to make it as easy as possible. If you want some tips as to what to include in your testimony, we have some suggestions here. And if you want to go even beyond, we have tips on how you can write a letter to the editor or how you can write an opinion piece. There's a lot of different ways that you can explore in our advocacy toolkit. You can also see a calendar of a legislative session to see what the dates are, when it's going to be in session, when it ends. Again, don't necessarily worry about all this. If you just want to sign up for our emails, and we'll just keep you informed that way. But if you want to go deeper, it's all in here as well. The last thing I want to mention is that we are on social media. We're on all of the platforms at HCAN Speaks. And so, this is another good way to keep updated with the issues. We share news stories, we share explainers. For example, that Nicole just gave, we shared on social media a couple days ago. And so it's a good way to stay informed. You can also send us things that you're looking at or ask us questions directly on social media. And we can talk more that way too. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, pretty much wherever you want to find us. And then, of course, the page that Nicole shared with our 2022 legislative priorities, all of the information is on these pages. So you can look through and see the bill numbers. You can see the points that they made, the charts, share these on your own social media, help to spread the word.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Ooh, that was also a lot. Any questions on things that you can do, how to sign up? No? Okay, I promised you all quick. Okay, well then with that, our team, we will stick around. So if there's questions and you're feeling shy and you want to wait until others hang up, we will stick around for a couple of minutes and answer any questions. Please, we will send this out, I believe, tomorrow, the recording, if you want to share with other families, parents that you know. Again, I often say to groups, people are always hoping that laws will change that will make our community better for families, better for our children. And they're always hoping that someone else magically will take care of it. But really, that's not, unfortunately, how it works. There's no one else showing up. It's sort of a question of we all need to show up. Most of us on here, I think, are parents or grandparents, and our voices are important. The state lawmakers, county lawmakers, federal folks, they work for us. We elect them. And it's really important that we reach out to them and just tell them about our lives, our struggles, and things that we want them to do to make our lives better as well. So we are here to help. You do that in any way that we can. And please, we do ask you to help spread the word to other families that might want to get involved in making Hawaii a better place for families. So thank you so much. Enjoy your week and your dinner, and happy Groundhog Day. So thank you so much, and we'll stick around in case folks have questions.